de tout.
Et comment entrevoyez-vous plus généralement le débat de ce soir?
J'espère que je peux montrer les enjeux qui touchent le monde et les solutions et la contraste entre les gouvernements à Ottawa qui toujours travaillent pour les plus riches et comment ça fait mal pour les travailleurs et travailleuses. Et on a des solutions concrètes et je suis hâte de les présenter.
Kevin Gallagher is CTV National. Hi, Mr.
Hey,
Singh. I'd like some clarification. So, especially with your Quebec platform, you have this proposal about Quebec being able to essentially kill pipelines, national infrastructure projects, that sort of thing. It's been called a veto, and I know that you're not really a fan of that language. Maybe you can clarify. So, why is it okay for one province to be able to kill a big infrastructure project, but other provinces just to, have input?
so Quebec is different, and we're proud of recognizing that. So we're not, that's something that we're very proud of. What we're proposing is two things. One is a requirement that any project that goes through Quebec would have to go through Quebec's evaluation environmentally. Secondly, we want to make sure that we're committing that if there is not if there's not communities on board on the acceptability sociale, if communities are not on board in Quebec, then we would not go ahead. What we said in general, though, we wouldn't impose pipelines on any province. We recognize we still have the power to do so. We've got the federal jurisdiction and the constitutional powers for national projects. But I don't believe it's the appropriate way to move ahead because it hasn't been successful in the past. It hasn't worked. And what I believe is we need to make sure that we're putting forward ideas that are in line with the vision of what communities want. And we can encourage things that will help us reduce emissions. We can use incentives to do that. But we have to make sure we do the work first instead of just imposing things.
But how will you determine that as a government? How do you determine whether the pipeline is being imposed or not? Because, for example, in British Columbia, there was split public opinion about whether they wanted to have the pipeline expansion for the Trans Mountain. So, how would a government decide whether a project like that is being imposed when there's a division of public opinion and also a division, it would seem, from a jurisprudence sense as well, because of the federal jurisdiction that that type of project would have?
Well, a project like Trans Mountain, I've been very clear, is a project that I don't think should go ahead. For a number of reasons, it's been challenged at the court level because of the lack of proper consultation and respect of Indigenous nations. For that reason, it fails. On the environmental front, it failed in court because they did not consider the impact to the environment. There's still ongoing concerns that have not been addressed. So for that project very specifically fails for a whole host of reasons. But in general, what I would do is three criteria. Look at the environmental impact. If all the environmental concerns are addressed, as well as does it fit within our plan to reduce emissions? Secondly, does it respect Indigenous communities? If it does so, that's another criteria that's satisfied. And thirdly, does it create jobs in Canada? If it's just about exporting a raw resource without adding value, without creating jobs, it's not a project that I would support. But if it satisfies these criteria, that's a project I'd look at.
And Quebec would have a veto, just to be clear.
Not That's not the language I've used. I want to be very clear. I've said it would be Quebec's ability to have an evaluation and to ensure that Quebec is not going to have a project imposed on it.
So they wouldn't be able to kill it.
I would make sure we go ahead in a way that respects Quebec and that would not impose a project on Quebec.
Vous lancez le.
Mr. Singh, can we just have you in English just say, how are you feeling about ahead of today's debate?
Sure.
And are you going to be spending the day prepping?
Yeah, I'm going to be definitely working with my team on tonight's debate. I'm excited for tonight. I love French. I love the language, and I'm really excited to hold the Prime Minister to account and really to show Canadians that they don't have to settle for less. Mr. Trudeau is going to scare people into settling for less. I don't think they have to. In fact, I'm confident we as a country can do a lot better, and people deserve a lot better. And that's why we're going to put forward some real solutions to the problems people are faced with.
The Bloc Québécois is rising in the polls. How are you going to differentiate yourself from that party?
The big difference is that if we want to solve some of the major problems that people are worried about here in Quebec, we can't do it unless we work together. And what the Bloc is not able to do and doesn't even want to do is work with others. We can work with the rest of Canada, bring people together and solve problems. Like the climate crisis, that's one where we need to work together across Canada. It can't just be solved in Quebec. It needs people from Quebec and from the rest of Canada working together.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, donc la grande contraste entre nous, les néo-démocrates et le Bloc, c'est pour faire face aux grands enjeux qui touchent les Québécois et Québécoises, comme la crise climatique, il faut travailler ensemble. Et le Bloc ne peut pas et ils ne veulent pas travailler ensemble avec le reste du Canada. Et si on veut vraiment réduire nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre, si on veut faire face aux inégalités qui existent dans la société, il faut travailler ensemble.
Just quick follow-up. Work with who exactly? Who do you think you're going to be pitching to enact some of your plans to work with?
The rest of Canada. The Bloc doesn't want to, nor do they care to work with the rest of Canada. They believe in just playing defense for Quebec. But Quebecers want more than just that. They want to tackle the climate crisis, and that's going to require working together with all of Canada to reduce emissions, working together with all of Canada to transition to a clean economy. You can't just do that working in one province. It requires working together and doing things like building an east-west energy grid to reduce the emissions of Canada, to connect clean energy in jurisdictions that have a lot of it with jurisdictions that don't. There's so much that we can do when we work together, but the Bloc is not prepared to or doesn't really want to do that.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
En fait, il y a beaucoup de choses qu'on peut faire ensemble si on veut réduire nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Par exemple, je veux bâtir une connexion énergétique entre les provinces où on a beaucoup d'énergie propre avec les provinces qui n'en ont pas. Ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on peut faire si on est prêt de travailler ensemble. Mais le Bloc ne veut pas et ne peut pas travailler ensemble avec le reste du Canada.
Hi, Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press.
Hi, Morgan.
Your campaign has been, by all accounts, pretty smooth so far, but if you look at the poll numbers, they haven't really budged much. What do you need to do differently to get people's attention and to change the dynamics of this race?
Sure, this election is about who's in it for you, who's fighting for you. And I put it to Canadians, if you look over the past number of years, the Conservatives and Liberals haven't really been working for people. They've been working for those at the very top. They've been making life easier for the wealthiest corporations, billionaires and millionaires, but they haven't made life better for Canadians. In fact, they made it harder for Canadians, and people are paying the price. And so there's some clear examples. Mr. Trudeau gave away $14 billion to the wealthiest corporations in last year's fall economic statement just to buy corporate jets, but he let families that are struggling to find affordable housing or for their medications out to dry. That's the difference. We will not give away billions to billionaires. We would actually invest in people, and that means things like universal pharmacare, investing in affordable housing, and that's what I want to put to Canadians. And I'm confident when they look at the choices they have and look at who's in it for them, they'll see that New Democrats have always been and will always be in it for them.
So you're not worried about the poll numbers that show you in, fourth or even fifth in Quebec?
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what people are going through and how we can make sure we improve their lives by doing things differently. And instead of benefiting the powerful, let's benefit Canadians. Let's benefit Quebecers. Let's benefit working families. That's what we can do.
Vous lancez ce midi une série de publicités spécifiquement pour le Québec qui commence toujours avec la même expression, avec ou sans turban. Pourquoi avoir choisi cette expression-là?
Parce que, en fait, le fait que j'ai un turban, c'est clair que j'ai un turban, mais je suis un amoureux de la langue française. Je suis quelqu'un qui comprend l'importance de l'identité et je suis quelqu'un qui peut se battre pour vous. Et c'est clair avec les autres gouvernements à Ottawa, les conservateurs et les libéraux, ils ont toujours choisi d'aider les plus puissants dans la société. Ils ont toujours aidé les multimillionnaires au lieu des travailleurs et travailleuses. Et ce que je veux dire, c'est moi qui est pour l'avortement, pour les droits des femmes, pour le mariage même sexe, pour la mort avec dignité. Et ce n'est pas les autres qui ont les mêmes valeurs, qui sont partageants avec les Québécois.
Pensez-vous que votre turban dérange?
Comment?
Est-ce que vous pensez que votre turban dérange?
En fait, je pense que c'est clair qu'il y a à travers le Canada des gens qui ont des préjugés à cause de ça. Et c'était toujours le cas dans ma vie que j'ai dû lutter contre, se battre contre ces préjugés. Et je suis content de le faire parce que je sais, si on peut faire ça, on peut aller de l'avant.
Can you get that in English as well, sir?
Sure.
Yeah, just whether that's something that Quebecers maybe have concerns about.
Yeah, I've faced that my whole life. I grew up in Windsor and Toronto and St. John's, Newfoundland, Labrador, and we've got beautiful communities that are welcoming and loving. But in all those communities, there's also been systemic racism that's existed across Canada. So there's always been challenges for people based on who they are. And I am not a stranger to that. I face prejudice myself, but many Canadians do. And I'm confident, though, that if we go past those prejudices, that we can actually find so much that we have in common and we can build a better Canada where we focus on how we solve problems as opposed to our differences.
Is it fair to say that the Bloc is your main opponent in this debate?
I would say my main opponent is cynicism because a lot of Canadians feel let down by Mr. Trudeau. They feel that they had a lot of hope and a lot of excitement about things that were offered, and then a lot of promises were broken, and people now don't really feel that same hope and that excitement about voting. And I want to tackle that. I want to replace that cynicism with hope and tell Canadians that you do not have to settle for less. You don't have to be voting out of fear. You can vote for something you believe in, and that's, I think, my biggest opponent.
Just with Bill 21.
Yep.
I mean, I can only imagine that this is going to bug you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And all of the federal leaders, including yourself, have said that they wouldn't challenge it federally, right? You wouldn't join into a provincial challenge in the courts against this bill. But you've been the strongest, perhaps, saying that it's state-sponsored discrimination. Right now, you're talking about how your whole life you've dealt with systemic discrimination. You know how it feels. So I'm wondering why. Why is it not, in your view, the right thing to do to challenge this discriminatory piece of provincial legislation from a federal perspective?
I think it's important to challenge it. And I'm hoping that by being in Quebec and saying, hey, listen, I got a turban and a beard, and I'm out here talking about loving the language, fighting against climate crisis, investing in people, investing in universal medication for all, that people can see, you know what, maybe it isn't a good idea to have divisive laws that discriminate people based on the way they look. Maybe we should focus on how we can build a better society together. And my presence in Quebec is a way of saying, hey, there's a better way to work together. We can actually work together and not discriminate based on the way we look. And on the court challenge, there is a court challenge going on right now, and I don't want to politically interfere with that. And I think it's very important that that court challenge go ahead. I support the right to have that court challenge, and I don't want in any way jeopardize its success or its outcome by interfering.
Why would it be political interference? Why not? Why, from your point of view, why is it political interference for the federal government to weigh in on the human rights of Canadian citizens?
Well, when there's an existing or ongoing court challenge, it's important for that court challenge to be able to continue without any sort of political interference if it's in process, if it's happening right now. Laws should be designed to ensure that rights are protected and that there's a court system that can challenge laws that are discriminatory. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And so we need to see the process go ahead.
Enfin, le gouvernement Legault a présenté ses excuses aujourd'hui aux Autochtones à la suite donc dans le fond, à la suite du dépôt du rapport de la commission Bien. Quelques mots là-dessus.
Oui, il s'excusait et je pense que c'était une bonne chose. Il a aussi dit quelque chose que je suis tellement d'accord. Elle a dit que il faut passer par les excuses et par les actions concrètes. Et je suis tellement d'accord parce que M. Trudeau s'excusait beaucoup, mais il n'a pas pris des actions concrètes pour régler la situation. Et c'est exactement ce qu'il faut faire. Oui, c'est nécessaire de s'excuser, mais on a besoin de plus que ça. Et ça veut dire qu'on a aussi besoin de prendre des actions concrètes pour s'assurer que cette sorte de discrimination ne continue pas dans l'avenir. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Merci.